ECV Consulting, and recently I was able to spend some time talking with Tony Haynes from Saturn EV. We had a very good discussion about Tony's background and career in the aviation industry, and how the Saturn EV program is moving forward with a launch later on this year of 3 vehicles onto the market, a small city car plus a box van and flatbed truck. It's an exciting project. It sounds absolutely amazing, and just the thing that the inner urban cities and towns are crying out for that last mile delivery, as well as for councils and very small one-man band and landscape garden companies. This is an exciting conversation. Tony is on top form. I hope you enjoy. Tony, thank you very much for joining me. It's a real pleasure to speak to one of the UK's youngest EV manufacturers, and really a company that's got a bit of foresight as to what's going to happen. That's how I look at it. Let's start by talking a little bit about Saturn and also your background in the aerospace industry, because I'm guessing there's the engineering complexities of an EV and the engineering complexities of the aerospace industry have a lot of similarities in terms of how you have to approach the thinking.
Yeah, I suppose they're one of the same, really. I suppose on aviation ground power. So I'll take you back, actually. When you said one of the younger ones, I thought you were talking about me, not the.
Obviously, sorry, obviously.
Okay, so if I take you back when I first joined the Navy, I went into the Fleet Air Arm, and I worked on Sea Kings and what have you down at Culdrose, and then up to Yeovilton. So I had an introduction to aviation then. I left that and then joined British Airways, but I was living in Eastbourne, and Eastbourne to Heathrow was a long journey, so that didn't last long. So I've been in a bit of the automation game for quite a few years now, and that led to, when I say automation, I mean actually automation of doors, windows, that type of automation, as opposed to automotive, which people get mixed up with. And then a few years ago, I think it's about 5 years ago now, I got an opportunity to get back into aviation, certainly on the ground power. An American company decided to close their UK manufacturing, which was Houchin, based down in Kent, and I took 3 of their engineers on board, and we went from there, really, in the ground power. Which is very similar, if you like, to the way an electric car works. We take an incoming supply, we chop it up, and then we chuck it back out as an AC supply at 400 hertz. So we play around with electrics internally. I suppose you could say that an electric vehicle charger works a similar way, and certainly the way the car works. So that's where we were, and then. Obviously, being on the airports, I've been on airports for probably 20 years now. Over the last 5 years or so, the expansion in electric vehicles on the actual tarmac itself is phenomenal. Pushback tugs, everything. And the pushback tugs now are even remote. So they stand there with a radio control device. So that's where it's come round. And then a couple of years ago, I thought, you know what? We need a small electric van in this marketplace on these airfields, and that's where I set out, really. So we've done 2 years later. We're just about ready to put one out the door, so to speak. So we sourced some bits and a particular chassis and what have you that we bring in. We assemble and what have you in the UK, put our little bits and pieces that we need to put on, and then sell it. We did exactly the same research with a car. Took us a little longer than wanted to get an EE certification, but that's finally through now. And then we have all this virus problems. So now, obviously, we're a bit further back now and where we want to be. But hopefully, come July, we'll have the cars ready, or certainly a couple of samples ready to go onto the roads. There you go.
And certainly, if you're looking at urban deliveries,
Yep.
work that I've done in the past, we've seen companies in London and in some of the other major cities where they're not doing more than 100 miles a day for stop-start deliveries, courier work.
Very much so. You're right. If I think the last mile delivery is exactly where we're heading. You know, you'll have your big trucks deliver to a depot outside the city, and then they'll ship them in the small vehicles. You know, I mean, if you look at London, for example, it's now down to it's 20 miles an hour in the inner city. You know, so it's perfect vehicle. It's a perfect vehicle for it. You know, we've got lots of other towns now taking on board where they're banning diesel vehicles, you know, and petrol vehicles from the city centres. So again, they're perfect vehicles. You know, if you're a small council and you only do a small area, the van's perfect. You know, we've got a box, we've got a flatbed for it, so it does, as I say, exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We start to see Oxford later on this year going zero emission in the city. Bristol have announced the banning of diesel vehicles. And no doubt there will be others to follow. Nottingham has had a huge amount of work in infrastructure for electric vehicles. I think they've put in something like 250 electric charge points over the last 18 months. So there's a huge growth out there in the UK market.
You know, the thing about it is, you know, and people say, oh, there's nowhere to charge it, there's nowhere this, there's nowhere to do that. You know, at this moment in time, they're right. But I suspect when we first brought petrol vehicles or diesel vehicles onto the road, there wasn't that many petrol stations, you know, and it's exactly the same situation. There'll be more and more. From lamppost charging, you know, I was looking the other day, they were doing this little pop-ups in the street. We use pop-up charging points on the airfield already, obviously on a much bigger scale, but, you know, that's exactly what they would work for. They'll get there, without a shadow of a doubt, they'll get. Will we see a sudden surge to buy any new ones? I don't know if we'll see a sudden surge to buy new cars, full stop, to be honest. It's going to be a really difficult period for all industries. Over the next 6 months or so. Certainly, I know in the aviation industry, we're talking 2-3 years to get back where it needs to be, if not longer. You know, so it's going to be difficult for everyone, not just EVs. Thing about our vehicles, though, I will say about our vehicles, we're not Tesla, we're not an Audi, and we're not BMW, and they produce some fantastic electric vehicles. Our car is designed for a little city run around, and it's coming in. It should be on the road for just over £12,000. You know, and that's what we're designing it for. You know, it'll only do 35 miles an hour. Yes, it'll only do 60-mile range, but that'll do you fine if you commute. You know, if you do a quick drop the kids off, that type of package, use it as it's meant for, and it'll be a perfect little vehicle for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing price, especially when you consider some of the cost of the major manufacturers, Renault, Nissan. The cost of their vehicles is unbelievable. So for a little over £12,000,
but there isn't much to an electric car, really, is there?
You know, no, and that's it. The maintenance costs of an electric vehicle are probably 20-30% that of a normal car.
Without doubt, and if you look at the sensors that you get on modern cars. You know, certainly on the petrol engine cars and what have you, have an air mass meter for this, a sensor for that, the exhaust sensors, you know, all the sensors that go to make that car up. And they are a fantastic bit of kit, don't get me wrong, you know, and I think the major manufacturers have tried to keep a lot of that in an electric vehicle, hence the reason it costs so much.
Yeah.
You know, how many people actually use all that information in their car? You know,
yeah, it becomes data overload.
You know, I jump in my car at the moment, you know, and I turn the radio on, and that's about it.
Let's have a little look at the range of vehicles that you have. So you've mentioned you've got the car, and you've got commercial vehicles as well.
Yeah, but currently we have a small van, It can either be a box van or a flatbed. In fact, I'm trying to think. We actually have it on a YouTube video. If you want to have a quick look on the YouTube, you can see them both in action. That we did a video shoot for, and they are practical little vans. They're actually, I think, funnily enough, electric vehicles, certainly the vans and what have you, you don't seem to want to go at Mach 3. No. They seem to be a bit more. You seem more relaxed with them. Do you know what I mean? It's bizarre, isn't it? But that's the way it things. So we've got the small van, and again, the van we're hoping for around about £16,000, which is a good price.
And what kind of payload are you getting on the van? Because that's one of the key issues that operators look at, is what can they carry in terms of weight.
Yeah. Again, we're about 500 kilos on the van. So it's a reasonable payload. If you're doing parcel deliveries, that sort of thing, so it's more than enough for that. And again, like I said, we looked at first and foremost around the airports. So again, they don't. If you look at most of the vehicles, they carry very little. It may be that somebody's left a bag behind, or a bag, and just zipping around. So that's where we are with a van, that sort of payload. We can double the battery pack up, so it's a 13 kilowatt system at the moment, but we can put in a 26 kilowatt. Depends on what you want. I don't see, once we try and educate people, and what they're after, people say, oh, well, I carry 2 ton of sand or whatever. Well, you don't want one of our vans. That's the bottom line. The car itself, it's a small car. We're only on something like a 9 kilowatt battery pack on that. But again, we're looking at how we can increase the range by doubling the battery, looking at the solar panels for the roofs. Speaking of solar panels, did you see there was an article I read recently about rain?
Yeah.
They're turning drops of rain onto the panels that convert to electricity as well. And that we need in the UK, most definitely.
Tony, thank you very much for your time. We are running out of a little bit of time now, but thank you very much for your
time
and talking us through. And it will be great when all of this lockdown situation is over to properly catch up and have a look around the vehicles. I would really love to
once we're all open up, do pop down and visit us in our little workshop.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. Tony, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome.
I wish you all the best.
Thanks very much, Lloyd. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Well, that gives you a little bit of a sample of the conversation that I had with Tony. If you want to find out some more, please visit the Patreon page. Don't forget to like and share below, and give us any feedback and comments. We welcome that. But please do visit our Patreon page, where you can sign up and get involved in some of what's going to be coming up in the future, including some very, very exclusive content that is going to be coming our way in the not too distant future. Thank you again for your time. The link to Tony's and Saturn EV's YouTube channel is coming up in just a moment, so please go and visit them and find out a little bit more about the vehicle. Until next time, stay safe.